Ernest Hemingway. I have read all his books. For Whom the Bell Tolls, The Old Man and the Sea. They're all classics.
Oh, yeah, I've seen all his movies, yeah. Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Saves Christmas, Ernest Gets
Hell, I think that may be a different Ernest.
Welcome back to Kenan and Kel with Adam and Aaron. I'm Adam.
And I am Aaron.
This is the podcast where we review every single episode of Kenan and Kel, the 90s Nickelodeon sitcom. We've made it all the way to episode 3.
We haven't quit yet.
No, and that's a good rally thus far. What's the name of this episode?
This episode is called Doing Things the Hemingway.
Yes, a pun on the Ernest Hemingway, the great American author.
I believe so. Author, thinker, poet, writer. Yeah. So shout out Ernest Hemingway.
I don't know if they totally utilize him well. I haven't read any of his stuff myself. They shout out his work, and I think that's about it. They
basically just took the they took the title and the concept. They probably read like what was back then a Wikipedia page, so maybe an encyclopedia, and and they're basically like, oh, this guy had an influence on like the way people live their lives and adventurous ways of living, and that's basically where they got the idea.
Yep, it basically is a quote about his life goals. It's an episode about life goals.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
So let's get into it here.
I think my new New Year's resolution is to watch this every January 1st to make me dream big about my goals.
And that's a pretty good one. I definitely want to get into life goals later on the show.
Definitely.
And first you've created an intro for us to.
Of course I have.
Set the scene here.
Throughout history, civilizations have always been trying to touch the sky, to reconnect with the heavens. From the Tower of Babel to the Great Pyramids of Giza to the Citadel at Machu Picchu, we seem to never get tired of making the grandest structures imaginable. It seems like humans have been saying the bigger the better since we first learned how to use tools. In the end, constructing massive structures seems to be more of an egotistic pursuit than a practicality. I mean, how necessary is the Empire State Building? Couldn't they just make other, larger buildings around it? Whether egotistic or practical, the fixation with impressive structures exploded like just about everything else during the Industrial Revolution. Steel replaced wood, and buildings became skyscrapers. Enormous buildings replaced other enormous buildings just so engineers could say they could. For 25 years at the end of the 20th century, the largest building in the world was in the heart of downtown Chicago. It was the Sears Tower. For a young and bold Kenan Thompson, climbing to the top of the largest building in the world to declare your love for a woman you've known for about 6 hours seems to make perfect sense. In the context of human beings making ambitious dreams to reach the heavens, it maps out pretty well.
Wow, what a scene is set.
Can you believe it?
All right, so here it goes into the episode.
Here we go.
Classic, Kenan and Kel starting off the show.
Classic denim outfit.
Very, very large clothes.
What about Kel?
Kenan is talking about a book that he's been reading by Ernest Hemingway. Does he specify? Or
he does not specify. He has a red book in his hand, and you can't see the title because it's one of those books that doesn't have a title, and he doesn't mention what it is.
Probably a book of poetry or something like that. And Kel
has an idea about what it is.
The Pretty Little Pony, right?
Yes.
A superior book.
The greatest book. Yes.
Which the environments, the ecosystem of the Pretty Little Pony is pretty incredible. Because the animal cast that he lists include like a gorilla, a bunny, and a giraffe.
Yes, and they're doing different things like cleaning each other and helping each other out. And anyways, this is a very strange way to introduce the show, but you can tell from the start that Kenan, because he's reading, he is filled with great ideas.
Yes, tonight's show is about going after your goals, which I like that. I think they dropped that in a couple episodes, but I like how they pitched like what the tonight's show is about.
Yeah, it's almost like it has a message. Like there's like a moral to this story.
Yeah, and I think the moral is very similar to most Kenan and Kel episodes.
Yep.
All right, get into it. We start off in Rigby's.
Before we jump to Rigby's, Kel says a great line, and he says, "Kenan, people shouldn't be getting ideas from books." Kenan. Oh, here it goes.
Very anti-intellectual. That's
all right, and into Rigby's.
all right. Yes.
The intellectual hotbed of Chicago.
Yes. As Chris shows a beautiful illustration of 3 bananas for $1. His painting of the bananas is very odd. Kenan Kel compare it to a baseball mitt or octopus.
It's not even yellow. It's like a light brown.
So Kenan talks about the book he's reading. Do you want to elaborate?
Sure. So he's reading a book by Ernest Hemingway, and Ernest Hemingway is talking all about how he has these 3 life goals, which is to plant a tree, to bear a son, and to fight a bull. And to Kenan, this makes a tremendous amount of sense.
Yep. Kel, meanwhile, assembles a sandwich from just what's around him in Rigby's.
Yep. I'm looking at it right now, and he just has the loaf of bread just on the counter. You know, no plate, no anything. He's got a steak knife, just chopping away some ham because he loves ham, of course.
Yep, he just takes apart a whole head of lettuce, grabs a bottle of mustard off the shelf, ruins it, puts it back on the shelf. You think that's a good sandwich?
You know, the lettuce on it is throwing me off. But besides that, it looks pretty good. The lettuce is about the size of Cal's head.
It looks like more lettuce than you'd find in a salad.
Yes, it's just one giant piece of lettuce.
Kel thinks that the Ernest that Kenan is talking about is the Ernest from the Ernest movies, where he saves Christmas and
Yeah. Ernest goes to camp. Ernest saves Christmas, and they're like, "No, Cal."
Yeah, you don't see that in too many kids sitcoms like past 2000s. They like make up their own dumb movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun seeing that pop culture references.
I do like, yes, that is very refreshing, and it puts you back in the scene because like when this was made, they didn't have any they were just thinking about it then. They weren't thinking about it 20 years from now, so it's kind of nice. It still has some like cultural relevance. What I really liked about this scene is just how excited Chris was to show off this sign. He's like, "What? Don't you understand fruit art?" Like he is elated, and he thinks it is the greatest thing. It's like, you're a store owner. What are you doing, like staying up late, like painting signs?
Chris doesn't have too many like life goals or ambitions of his own, but he just loves working at a grocery store.
It's his favorite thing to do. So that I like that a lot. And this scene, at the end of the scene, we were also introduced to one of Cal's life goals,
which is
to meet an Eskimo.
Yes. He builds a whole giant list soon after. But yes, no. Running gag, meet an Eskimo. So, let's see. Next we head back to the Rockmore household, where Kenan's parents are watching Casablanca.
The first movie that they ever saw together.
Which, I ran the numbers on that, and it's a little weird. So, yeah, they're... Kenan, how old do you assume Kenan's parents are?
Probably like 50, 40, 45 to 50-ish in there.
Yeah, I'm guessing like 40 to 45 because Kenan's like 15. So
right.
It means like they're 25, 30 when they had him. Maybe a bit older. I looked it up, and there's a pretty big age difference between the actors that portray his parents.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so his dad is played by Ken Foree, and his mom is played by Teal Marchand. His dad, was born in 1948, and his mom was born in 1965. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, like 17-year difference.
Yep.
So his dad is like 48 in this episode, and his mom is technically 31, but I assume she's playing someone.
Not that. Yeah. Not that
10
they will
years
ever.
older.
Yeah. Not that they will ever reveal that as a necessary plot point.
But yeah, no, that's that's troubling if they had Kenan 15 years ago, because
Yeah.
that age difference is notable.
Let's not go there.
No. Yeah, they're playing people in their 40s.
Definitely.
So, yeah, Kel invites himself to sit between them.
And grab the popcorn.
Yep. To which Kenan's dad does not like salt on his popcorn because...
It makes him puffy.
Which... I also looked at the writers of this episode and last episode, which his last episode, Aunt Petunia, was get all puffy.
Of course. Theorized because of the pistachio nuts, but not confirmed.
Yes, so it's two different writers, and for some reason they both went back to the well.
And they just used the perfect word for Kenan's dad. That is his word. It's just when he says puffy, this big, scary, mean-looking guy, bald, and just dominating presence when he walks in a room, and he says the word puffy. It makes you laugh. So nice job.
It could be Ken Forey, like that's just his well that he goes to when he needs something to say.
Yeah, maybe they don't write any lines for him. They're like, all right, you got
All right,
this.
you're grumpy with Kel, and go. Kenan states his 3 life goals. Do you have them?
I do. So Kenan's 3 life goals are to save somebody's life, to declare his love to a girl, and he will climb a real adventurous thing like Mount Everest. Or something along those lines.
It's very vague for a life goal.
Very vague.
Yeah, but yep, those are his things, and I think that the scene ends with Kel, who as Kenan's mom gets salt, Kel says, "You know what? You see him slowly gathering just all their movie watching gear.
Yep.
First, takes the popcorn." Takes the VHS out on top of it, and he's like, you know what? I don't have a VCR. And takes their entire VCR set.
Yep. And so Kel leaves the Rockmores movieless.
But they have a very funny line where Kenan says to them, you want me to call him back? And they say, no.
And Mr. Rockmore, of course, says... Well, like Mrs. Rockmore says, "What happened? Where's the VCR? Where'd Cal go?" He goes, "It all happened so fast."
It does, like in the blink of an eye.
You're like,
their
wait a second.
Movie night ruined.
Yeah,
but I like that their movie night is not as important as not seeing Cal.
Very much so. Very much so.
Already the family hate for him is very palpable.
Yes, it's very present.
Yeah. Anything else in this scene?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Back to Rigby's. The following day, Kenan starts off with a very good line, which is,
Man, it's been almost a whole day and I haven't accomplished any of my life goals yet.
Which this is classic Kenan, makes this goal for himself. Life goals. He says a couple times life goals. And the first scene he says life goals to become a complete person. And so he says he hasn't achieved them yet.
yeah.
Because that is what you do with life goals. You just knock them off like it's like a to-do list.
If there is a moral of this episode, impatience is certainly.
It's woven in there pretty well.
Yeah. So reflecting on it, Kenan realizes that one of them is to save his life. So he sees Chris on a precarious stool, and a step ladder, and he rushes over to him.
Your shoes untied.
Thanks.
So I guess I really saved your life on that one, huh?
No, you didn't.
Oh, come on.
He is trying to save Chris's life at any means necessary so that Chris can say to him, "Hey, you saved my life."
Yes, Chris is not very thankful for his mediocre advice. He kind of trips him a little bit. It's a little weird. But Kel shows up with a whole laundry list of life goals in quotes that he is currently committed to. There's a lot of funny lists in this episode.
There are, and along with the list, he brings two very interesting items. One of those is a VHS tape that is destroyed. Go figure, it's Casablanca. And the second one is a box of dog biscuits.
Yep, grabs it right off the shelf, slams it down, and this is something I thought was really noteworthy. Is that he asked Chris, "Have you ever tried the dog biscuit?" And Chris says no, and he eats it in front of them, and he likes it. And then he talks about life goals, not mentioning at all that the dog biscuit was related to them. So
Yep.
you could
Just segues right into it.
yeah, you could interpret this as the dog biscuits have nothing to do with his life goals.
No, it doesn't seem like they do.
You just tried it out in front of them.
You know, and we're starting to see this side of Kel, this very impulsive but curious Kel.
Yes. Kenan reads off Cal's list of life goals.
Oh, can I read them? I have some.
Yes, go for it.
Meet an Eskimo, of course. We already knew that one. Look inside a videotape. Check. Okay. Put 50 grapes in his mouth at once
Which he shortly changes to 33 grapes.
because that's all he could fit. Which is interesting, you know, that he wants to achieve these goals so much that he will go back and actually change what they say so that he can do them.
Yeah, he will constantly lower the bar to achieve these.
It's interesting because that's actually a smart way to go about achieving goals. You know, it's like adjusting for them when you realize that they're unrealistic.
Yeah, that's it.
But I mean, we can extract a big lesson from this. But it's very funny because he spits all the grapes out at once. The other one is spank a walrus.
And this one, it's very. I think Kenan maybe flubs this line about the next one. Because
I'm trying to read what I wrote and I can't even read it.
So what he says, to the best of my understanding, is convince a new soup. But
It's something like that.
I think what he's supposed to say is invent a new soup.
They just kind of let it in there. They're like, all right, we only have 3 hours to film this episode, so we got to make it quick.
It's a very long scene, if you noticed. So
I did. I wrote it down. It was 6 minutes and 22 seconds
That's
in
pretty
Rigby's.
crazy.
Yeah,
It's most of the episode.
yeah, and I mean, we'll get into it next, but the other half of the episode is basically the next scene. So this whole episode is really two scenes, and I did want to mention this because I like what they did, because in the first episode, as we talked about, it's kind of all over the place. There's a lot happening, but in this episode, it's very narrow and deep. Like they take an idea and they really elaborate on it, and they build a story in a very simple way, just with their interactions, not with things that are happening. So I don't know. I found it really interesting that they did this really long scene.
Sure. Yeah. No. I thought it was very impressive. Cal has one more life goal,
Oh yes, get rid of my rash.
which Kenan says again. It's very achievable because he yells at him about the ointment they should be using.
Because this is something I've talked about before, of course. And now Cal's list is way longer than that, but those are the only goals that were spoken out loud.
Yes, and he's got almost a scroll worth of. I wonder what he used to write that. It's not just a bunch of piece of paper stapled together.
No, it's a long piece of paper.
Yeah. So enter the scene a young lady that catches Kenan's eye. He enlists Kel to get. One more of Kel's goals is that to read a woman's magazine, which he immediately goes over and starts doing.
New Bride magazine.
Yeah. Honestly, so of all his goals, let's talk about the goals of these two. Really fun. First Kenan's goals? Do you think they're achievable? Do you think they're noteworthy?
Kenan's goals are far too vague. Noteworthy, save somebody's life. I mean, I think when you make a goal, you have to ask why you're making the goal. Why does he want to save somebody's life? It seems like he wants to save somebody's life so that he can be known as this guy who saved somebody's life, which is classic Kenan. But But also, like declare his love to a woman and climb a big, however he phrases it. Again, very achievable.
I think they're very in line with what the Hemingway's 3. It's like
very much.
Yeah, it's just almost like the high school versions of those.
Yeah. They're simple goals, but for Kenan at this point in his life, they're all very achievable.
Yeah, and Kel's very random. Some are impossibly random, but others, like you said earlier, I like it about how adjust your goals when you can't reach them.
Yeah. Well, this reminds me of the episode of The Office when they are they're talking about New Year's resolutions, and they're reading them off the board, and Kevin says, "Eat more vegetables," and Dwight goes, "Those aren't goals; those are just things you want to do." And so this is pretty much what these two are experiencing. Those aren't really goals, especially for Kel. They're just things that he wants to do.
Yeah. This isn't to rise to the occasion to do. But I do think that there's some merit in not reading women's magazines specifically, but like reading things that you you wouldn't normally.
Yeah. There's definitely some grains of truth in these two's exploration of the life goals.
There's a nugget of a good idea in that. Okay, so a girl enters the scene, and Kenan enlists Kel's help to get her name, which leads to a very funny scene where where Kenan's pointing behind his back and an old lady has stumbled up to where she was looking at cotton balls.
Yes, the beautiful woman was looking at these cotton balls, and then she is replaced by a very old woman, and so Kel is confused and thinks that Kenan is falling in love with this very old lady.
Kenan says she's probably a senior, and Kel's like, I'll say. Good exchange. They also had a really funny bit right before that where Kenan says, "Kel, keep pretending how to read." And he's like, "I'm not pretending. I know how to read."
That's exactly how he said it. Yeah. Yes.
So Kel goes over to the old lady, mistakenly thinking that she's Kenan's crush. And she says her name's Ethel. Kenan points him to the other girl. Which leads, I think, probably my favorite line of the episode, where, she says, "My name is Ethel," and Kel says,
He says, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Nobody cares."
Just so heartless.
And even the audience, you can hear that. They're like, "Oh my god."
My name is Ethel.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Nobody cares.
Yeah,
it went from very funny and lighthearted to he just
not the first time this scene they take this old lady for an abuse.
Yes.
They learned that her name is Brianna, which Kel shouts across the room.
Kenan, her name's Brianna.
Kenan rushes Kel into the back room to have a talking with him, and he formulates a plan. That, hey, Mount Everest is far away, but the Sears Tower is nearby.
Oh, the Sears Tower.
110 stories tall, very impressive, and he can not kill two birds with one stone by declaring his love for her atop this tower.
With a big banner.
Yep. So they return, he tells Chris that they'll be leaving, and then Kenan does something that probably wouldn't make it in a sitcom today.
Yep. He, after leaving the store, he barges back in, grabs Brianna, and kisses her on the lips.
Yes, which, no consent. If you asked her, she'd probably say, no.
Of course not.
I don't want this. But it's a setup to the joke, the big punchline, which is Kel comes back in and says, "Oh, we're doing that then?" And he makes out with
Ethel. Yes, he kisses Ethel on the lips, and she is blown away. And then he leaves.
Yeah, not definitely a scene that shows its age.
It shows its age for sure. It's almost like it was out of Shakespeare. It was a play, and they're like, okay, what can we have these characters do next? It's come back in and dramatically kiss her on the lips. Yeah,
it's a dated punchline. I feel bad for Brianna a little bit. She's only in like this one scene, and that's it.
Oh, but she becomes the cornerstone of this episode, of course.
Oh yeah, she's definitely the goal, I guess. Next scene is that we find ourselves in the stair tower of the Sears Tower.
Yes.
Kenan is wearing the same garb. I like his. I just want to say I liked his T-shirt in this one, the orange one with the very simple, and
it had a black circle with a white circle in it with another small black dot.
Yeah, I also want to say that it might be like Chicago Bulls colors or something. Probably not. That's right.
It's a little orange. Yeah, a little orange. I don't know what that shirt is, but
it's perfect for a sitcom where like you can't have a shirt that says like Target.
Right. Right. It actually kind of looks like the Target logo, except in black. Is this another large organization stealing ideas from Kenan and Kel? It might be.
And Kel is dressed in this giant, like, mountain climber's gear.
It looks like he's going hiking, but he's also kind of, into this, like, kilt. He's almost wearing, like, a kilt. He's wearing plaid and a fur coat. Very strange attire with a giant backpack, which I don't know why he has a backpack that large.
He also almost looks. I think you see his legs a couple times. It looks like he has like the stockings on, like the
like
he's the lederhosen or something like that.
Yeah, he's got like really high socks on, and he's wearing shorts.
So, yeah,
he looks like a park ranger that is mixed with like a Nordic like restaurant server.
Yeah. I missed a note here. Back when Kenan takes Kel to the back room, did you notice that he totally like cracks up at some points?
Oh yes, Kenan does that very often.
Yeah, but he at the he's explaining his plan to Kel, and Kel's like, "You're gonna declare your love for the tower?" And yeah, Kenan, his next line, he's laughing over the whole thing. So
yep.
Again, it's fun to see him having a good time on set.
Yeah, they really enjoyed doing this show. It's fun.
Yeah. They're as they ascend the tower, Kel leaves behind a trail of breadcrumbs.
Why? Oh, so we can find our way back down. We're going upstairs. The only other place to go is downstairs.
I think Kel really shines in the second half.
He does. He is firing on all cylinders for sure.
Yeah. They as they ascend, I think up to like the 30th floor.
Yep.
Kel complains about his backpack, and they start to explore its contents. And oh boy, does it have contents.
Yes, it does. So the first thing they pull out is a dumbbell.
Yep. Weights.
Why is he carrying a dumbbell? Okay. The second thing they pull out is a box of dog biscuits, making a second appearance. And the third thing, fruit in a bowl.
Which a very heavy bowl, which Kenan questions, and Kel replies, "I don't want a backpack full of loose fruits."
Last but not least, a juice machine.
Yes, a juicer.
It's like a handheld juicer.
I don't know if you saw this thing, but it looks like it's made of like galvanized steel. Like it's really.
It's definitely dated. I mean, we still have juicers around today, but I'm currently watching Better Call Saul, and in season 5, I think, his big thing is like making fresh pressed orange juice because it's in like the early 2000s. But
Ooh.
that was a big thing. It was like it's fresh pressed juices.
Sure, yeah, no, which
and it's here it is again. It's the like epitome of modern.
Absolutely. They continue to climb to the top of and by the time they're on the 109 floor, Kenan is like ready to give up. He's exacerbated.
Yep, that's the word.
And Cal says another contender for top line. Man, I wish I had some fresh squeezed juice right now.
Because they took all the stuff that was in Cal's backpack and left it behind. Oh, yep. that was very good.
It's a great payoff.
And while they're climbing up these stairs and hardly able to get it, you see what Kenan's holding in his hand, which is that banner that he was talking about. which is just a normal, almost like a normal poster. It's really not that big, and
No.
and I just love, like, he's carrying this little tiny banner, and he's gonna declare his love for Brianna. When, how is she going to see it?
Yeah, I know. They're 110 stories up.
My favorite was, we didn't even mention this, but way back when they were in the store, he said, Brianna, I want you to look up at the Sears Tower tonight. She's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, what? What is the plan here, guys? You have a little banner, and you're asking somebody to stare up into this 110 stories? Anyways, we're having a lot of fun with this episode.
But not only that, I don't know if you've seen like the Sears Tower, but it's a pretty complicated building.
Oh yeah.
There's at least 4 sides to it. So even if they hung up the banner and it was big enough to read,
where to look, and oh my goodness.
Where to look, when to look, they're up in the clouds, as you'll see in a moment.
It's quite a horrible idea, but it is very inspired. They are trying to achieve their life goals. They're dropping everything they're doing that day to achieve them.
So as they lay sprawled out on top of the topmost steps, Kel says to Kenan, "What if we get up there, Kenan? What if the door to the roof is locked?" To which Kenan gets a burst of energy and checks it and starts freaking out because it's locked.
Yep. And then it doesn't stay locked for long because Kenan lowers his shoulder and bursts it open. That's how roof doors work. They're not like bolted with security and made of metal.
If you look at that door, it looks real simple.
It looks like a wooden door.
Like a wooden office door.
Just a doorknob.
No, but once again, they are 15 years old. So it's weird that they can just ascend this tower, the tallest skyscraper, they just immediately have access to it, but just one shoulder push away.
Yep. I'm looking at...
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous. I'm looking at the door. It's hard to tell, but it kind of looks like the knob that has the lock on it. It's just like a normal doorknob. It looks like the knob that has the lock on it was on the inside. From where Kenan burst.
Yeah.
But we're gonna just let that slide. I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
We are on top of the roof, which is a fun little set. It accomplishes everything.
Definitely accomplishes everything. Yes.
Yeah, you can see the clouds on the outside. Gives the illusion of heights, and it's cool. They looked at Kenan's very afraid of heights, and Kel is very unfazed.
Yeah, it's nice because in the first couple episodes, right? We had the courtroom last episode, and then we have the top of the roof. So they're not just doing the classic sitcom thing where they're going to the same rooms over and over and over again. There's and then the rooms they go to every other episode, right? They have these brand new sets.
Yeah, we have like Kenan's room, the Rockmore's downstairs, the Rigby's. But yeah, every episode usually has a new set, which is nice.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
So let's see. They on top of this, yep. Looks like
What does Kel say when they're up there?
He says, "Whoa, we must be 50 stories high."
To which Kenan stares at him because they had just climbed 110 stories.
I love it when they have a very obvious number and they reiterate the number so many times and Kel just flat gets it wrong. That's like that's my second favorite, like, Kel stupidity.
It is, it's exceptional because, and we're learning more about Kel this episode. He is impulsive. He is lighthearted, and he's very just genuine and he's authentic. Yeah. But he's very foolish, and his best friend doesn't really help him kind of see through all that.
He needs to be on a short leash because otherwise he goes crazy. But speaking of leashes, I decoded something from this episode.
Oh yeah?
I've been keeping track of Kel facts. Last time, if you recall, Kel has a cousin in the circus.
Okay.
And this episode, I deduce that Kel has a dog. Do you want to know how I came to that conclusion, or do
Yes.
you want to take a guess?
Please. Well, I know the dog biscuits, maybe.
Yep, they have something to do with it.
Maybe also. No, I don't know.
Okay, so in Rigby's, he takes the box off the shelf and discovers before everyone that he likes the taste of dog biscuits.
Right.
So it's not something that he has eaten on his own before. Later, he pulls the dog biscuit box out of his bag, and they had rushed out of Rigby's without him having it in hand. So therefore, he had the dog biscuits at home. He wasn't eating them for fun at home, so he must have a dog.
Well, there you go. Very enlightening.
Thanks.
Good
As soon as
context clues there.
Yeah. Some people might call it a continuity error, but...
I think it means that he has a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, if they put it in there and they didn't address it explicitly, then, we were able to draw conclusions.
Yep. So they see a... What's this thing called? A cleaner's, scaffold?
Yeah, like a window washer. Window washer scaffold.
Yeah, so they jump down to it very quickly.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Which
Without much question or planning.
I was curious how the window washers, after finishing, climbed up from it or whatever.
Yeah, it does seem peculiar.
Precarious, too.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very smart. Maybe they raise it up all the way and then lower it. I don't know.
Yes.
Anyways, they jump down. We don't really see how they land. Maybe that's a good thing. Yeah.
Kenan's very afraid, but he insists that they hang up the poster with some tape from Kel. Kel, while left to his own devices, grabs the nearest device and starts toying with it.
Yep. And then the whole scaffold, the whole platform, goes down while Kenan still has his hand on the "I love Brianna" banner.
Ripping off the last two letters, so it says Kenan Hart Brian.
And I was cracking up when that happened because that is it's just so clever. Because then you're thinking oh my gosh, from the beginning of the episode, they had this in mind.
Yeah, that's why she's named Brianna.
How genius are these writers? I what I do like, and we're getting there, but what I do like about this episode is how everything does come together. It's very cleverly written.
Yeah, the pieces fall into place for sure.
Yeah, they do.
So they, after realizing the controller, I guess only had one charge in it, they start. Let's see. I guess they start coming up with ideas out of this. Kel's first idea is maybe if we rock it, which
So he starts running back and forth.
a very terrible first idea. Let's see. Next, what happens next?
So Kenan's crying, and Kel gives him a hug, and then Kel says he has another idea. So he yells at the top of his lungs, "Help!"
Yep. No one can hear them because if no one can hear them, no one can see them for sure, right?
Well, I mean, Kenan is wearing a bright orange shirt,
Yeah, all right, that's true.
but no, nobody can see them or hear them.
So they realize that they told their parents that they were at each other's houses, so no one's looking for them, and they're afraid that they're going to freeze to death. Cut to later, it is snowing.
Yeah, and they have ice forming on their hair and their their clothes.
Yeah. They have a new idea about writing Kenan's new idea about writing a note and throwing it over.
So then he asks Kel if he has something to write on or something to write with.
And we find out the other items inside Kel's backpack.
Beginning with a cactus, a bowling pin, a hairdryer, and lastly, a cell phone.
Which Kenan gives Kenan an excuse for another great look at Kel.
Oh, just
Yeah.
so mad.
Another Kel had a lot of great lines this episode. So, and Kenan's response to Kel saying, "Oh, it's for emergencies."
What is Kenan saying in response?
Well, you don't mind if we just use it anyway, now would you?
Yes, because what are they in? you might call this an emergency. Anyways, so who does Kenan dial?
His father, who gets very upset as he slowly reveals that he's not at Kel's house. He is on top of the Sears Tower. Well, what I like about the Kenan's dad cutaways is that instead of he doesn't hang up on them.
Yep.
No, he hangs up on them, but he doesn't say, "Oh, that's terrible. We'll get that sorted. I'll call the fire departments," or anything reassuring like that.
Yeah.
He just immediately hangs up and starts calling 911.
Yep. My favorite part of this exchange was Kenan's dad said, "What's up?" And Kenan said, "We are."
I like how the scene ends with Cheryl, his mom, coming over, and he explains to them that he's Kenan's on top of the Sears Tower. Wait, honey, do we know a Brian?
Because at the end, I love Brian poster. He mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very funny little touch.
Yeah. So a helicopter arrives on the scene and lowers down a ladder for them.
But before that comes, Kel says he has to go to the bathroom.
And Kenan says you can't aim at that tree down there.
And then, luckily, quickly, the helicopter comes, which leads to the debate about who should get on the ladder first.
Which is great, because they're out of this emergency situation. Everyone's in the clear, and yet they're still going to bicker.
Yep. It's like the fire. Not only did the fire department come to help, but they sent a helicopter. Or they didn't go up the stairs or the elevator.
And again, they didn't use the elevator. They sent a helicopter, and again, it's about impatience. It's an ongoing theme.
Yep.
They're just who's more impatient, and so they flip a coin, to which Kel comically stares down for a long time, and then declares, "Heads, I'm going."
So Kel grabs onto the ladder and starts to climb up, but not before Kenan grabs his legs and tries to hold him down.
Kenan hilariously, I thought, says, "Get off the ladder! Get off the ladder! I'm not going to tell you twice." After literally saying it twice.
He said it 2 times.
Yeah. He yanks on Kel and pulls off his shorts and underwear altogether.
And he is wearing smiley face underwear. That, of course, gets ripped off. And then Kenan looks up, and he is very upset.
A very abrupt ending, I'd say.
Yep. Yeah, we're left with Kel dangling, half naked from a helicopter, and Kenan just still on the platform. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was thinking about later episodes, and they do some pretty crazy stuff down the line. It's episode 3, and Kel's naked hanging from a helicopter. Which, now that I think about it, it's almost one of his goals. I could see him revising the naked on a bike to naked on a helicopter.
You're so right. Yeah, again, it comes full circle. But yeah, it is funny how much this escalates. Also, how there is, nothing stopping 2 teenagers from climbing the stairs of the Sears Tower and going on the roof.
Yeah, God forbid if they had ill intentions or anything like that. Anyone can do that and just jump off.
Yeah, this is the pre 9/11 days for sure.
Oh yeah, right.
Nobody bothered
Safety
to ask.
measures
Nothing,
not in place.
nothing. Probably not even security cameras.
Yeah. So back on stage, Kenan admits that he didn't really learn anything. They talk about being patient and stuff like that, but really blow it off. But Kel gets ecstatic because he sees in the audience an Eskimo.
A man very, very clearly dressed in Eskimo attire.
Yeah, like you might at a costume store. What I like it and I also don't like it is that the Eskimo wants nothing to do with Kel.
Yeah,
but he's at the show.
He is disgusted that Kel asks. Kel's like, I have so many questions to ask you. Do you have any questions for me? He goes, no. It's like, why? He's so angry at Kel.
But also, circling back, again, this episode just keeps looping around. Circling back to the topic of consent. It's kind of very weird that the Eskimo is like, please don't stop touching me.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Kel
What
yanks him up?
What is happening?
That's a very bad moral. If someone says that to you, don't. pull them onto stage.
Very, 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 very strange. But I mean, they mentioned this a few times during the episode, so I'm glad that Kel finally got to achieve his goal.
To be an Eskimo, yeah.
Not just do something he wanted to do, but achieve his goal for sure.
But that's not the last surprise of the episode. Do you want to say what happens next?
Sure. So a large, scary looking man with a ponytail and shaved sides of its head. He comes up. I don't know what he says.
He only says one line. He just says, "Hey, I'm Brian." Which it's so good that the episode is that effective that that's all the information that we need for Kenan to freak out.
Kenan freaks out. He says, "Kel, we got to go to the airport."
Yep, that's the first of a running gag of him telling Kel places that they need to go.
Yes.
Hastily. So the airport's the first one on there, and yeah, they run away, and Kel shortly runs after, leaving Brian and an Eskimo on stage.
Yeah, I loved the way it ended, because you're left with Kenan and Kel running away, and then an Eskimo and this like big meaty like white guy just like standing there. I loved how angry Brian was. Like,
oh yeah,
he just came on the stage.
He doesn't say anything. He doesn't say. I think he might. I forget. He might say like, "I saw your sign" or something like that.
Yes, maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was just funny how angry he was. I liked that. Same with the Eskimo. Everybody was kind of like pissed off.
I'm quick checking IMDb. No credit or anything like that to Brian, but I'm my headcanon, I'm assuming that like he's like a tough looking guy in the crew.
Most likely.
That they just like said, "Hey, can you just go out there and say I'm Brian because you're big and scary?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah. It didn't seem like he was very.
He didn't need to do much. And
Didn't
he
need to
did
do
everything
much.
they had to.
No. Not at all.
So yep, that's the episode. I thought it was a pretty fun one.
I liked it a lot.
know.
I liked it. I liked the long scenes that they were able to like really create a story out of, just dialogue, not all these dialogue and slapstick humor. It wasn't very intricate, but it wasn't like super polished, but it was fun.
Yeah, and there's some weird bits and beats of it. Listing random stuff is definitely a staple of the kind of comedy that like this and like say the Amanda Show, this era of TV like went for.
Just random.
But I think they did a good job with it. So as I've asked in the past, whose fault do you think this situation is? Kenan's or Kel's?
I think this is Kenan's fault.
Yeah, Kel messes things up a little bit, but honestly, as soon as he busted down the door to the roof, like they were fine they were within the law within that point, but he kind of pushed them over.
Well, I think the fault definitely comes far before that, when Kenan thinks that is foolish enough to think that he can achieve his life goals in one day.
Yeah, his impatience drives the whole episode.
Yeah, very.
And Kel had his back. He had a phone. He didn't use the phone, but that they would have been stuck up there.
Yeah,
without it.
Yeah, and you go back to Ernest Hemingway's 3 goals. To plant a tree, to bear a son, and to fight a bull. So 2 of those, the tree and the sun, those are things that take a long time. It's great if you plant a tree, but it doesn't mean anything unless the tree grows. And you can't just bear a son overnight.
Same thing with a bull. If you wanted to fight a bull, you'd have to go through some degree of...
Yeah, you'd have to train for it. Yeah.
Speed training.
Something. But yeah, Kenan doesn't notice that, and so he just goes right for it.
So I've added a few things to the reoccurring list that I have here. So in addition to Kel having a dog, Kenan's dad, I'm assuming that Aunt Bertha, not Aunt Petunia, I don't know where we came up with that. Aunt Bertha is probably on his side of the family because of the puffiness.
Yeah, I would imagine. That makes sense.
Yeah, so Aunt Bertha Rockmore, perhaps.
Perhaps. Maiden name Rockmore.
Yep. Additionally, I want to keep... I added a thing to keep track here of if, in fact, Kenan and Kel actually achieve their goals.
Ah.
I know a couple episodes that come to mind about how some of these might qualify. I don't think we're ever going to see Kel like spank a walrus or anything like that, but he's gonna. I think some of these are definitely going to be achievable. So, yeah, I have here 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like 10 goals. They accomplished like about half of them this episode.
That's pretty good.
Because yeah, Kenan did climb something really adventurous like Mount Everest.
Yep.
They got to the top of it.
And he did declare his love to a woman. Kind of.
Well,
for a half second, it said Brianna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna see if we get a better case of that later on. I wouldn't call that love. I would call that lust. Just a woman that he knew for 6 minutes and 22 seconds.
Didn't even ask for her name.
Yeah, that's all he knew about her. But anyway, so yeah, there's that. And yeah, I definitely want to revise this kind of after episode part of the show a little bit. Getting down to the numbers of the show, because they did some damage to Rigby's this episode. Kel, all the ingredients of a sandwich, a bag of deli meat, head of lettuce, bottle of mustard, a bun, dog biscuits, grapes, and he destroys the tape of Casablanca. So nowhere near the amount that Chris owes them for this,
the comic book still. Yeah.
The Skunkator comics. But they are starting to chip away at that debt to Rigby's.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. I'm going to revise my document a little bit, get some full numbers next episode.
Stay tuned.
But there's one other thing I want to talk about before we get into ratings here. So when it comes to life goals, actually two things. Are there any life goals of your own that you think match the tone of this episode? Anything that you like, pie in the sky stuff that you want to accomplish?
Definitely, I want to do a backflip.
Yep.
I think that's right in line with the style of goals that they're setting, because it's not really like, it's just something I want to do, but I have to work towards it.
It sounds like a Kel's List thing.
Yes, very much. But it would be so cool, if in 6 months from now I could just do a backflip whenever I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So that I guess that's kind of on my list. How about you?
You think I'd think of this?
It was a good question.
No, I want to get. Let's see. I want to get a short story published before I turn 30.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm currently doing stuff with the Writers of the Future contest. It's for sci-fi and fantasy. I had an entry this past quarter, and I'm currently trying to get another entry every quarter. So I've got another kind of 12 shots before that deadline. So
cool.
Yeah, that I guess that's definitely a life goal.
Nice. Yeah, that's more realistic and generative than slap a walrus.
For sure.
I don't know how you would even get close enough to a walrus to slap it. What if they turn and just... They're super dangerous animals.
Absolutely. Again, I think walrus is just a random thing that came to the writer's mind. But.
Random for sure.
So, do you think you'd be able to climb the steps of the Sears Tower?
Yes.
How many steps do you think there are?
Let's see. So one flight of stairs is probably around 20, give or take. Maybe 24. Let's just say 24. So 24 times 110. Do some quick math on the fly. I was a math tutor for some amount of time. So that would be 2,644 stairs.
All right. So the Sears Tower is now known as the Willis Tower.
Right.
They had
named after Bruce
change.
Willis.
Yeah, named after, which they should have named it the Nakatomi Plaza Tower.
They almost did. If it was in Los Angeles, they would have.
Yeah. Your first guess was a little closer. 2,109 steps.
Okay, so it was closer to like 21, 22.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, very very good guess.
Well, I do count stairs quite often.
Yeah. Do you think you would be able to pull that off?
Yeah, I would definitely.
All right. So I looked into it. There's actually an event, I believe it's the Skyrise Chicago event.
I think I heard about this once. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not all the way up to the 110th floor. I think it's the sky deck at the 103rd floor.
Right.
But yeah, no, every year they have a contest, and people of all types of capabilities do it. I saw a little video, and it's like, people that, are missing like certain limbs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
yeah, it's real inspiring.
Cool.
And the record time is like 13 minutes.
Yeah,
to get to the
that's
top.
like running up a hill, for just. That's pretty quick.
Most people on average take like 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But definitely achievable.
I think I could do it. It would really hurt, but yeah, I think.
Sure.
What do you think you could do it?
Well, on the topic of life goals, I want to say that I would like to. I'll just put it on the list. I wanted to climb the Sears Tower, but dressed like Kel in this episode, like his full outfit and a backpack full of, if not the same stuff, like the equivalent weight. I read the numbers, and he probably has like 50 to 60 pounds worth of stuff in there.
There's got to be some kind of Kenan and Kel fan club that does that. Maybe we can organize it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I did it within the time frame of this podcast, I would definitely like print out like our logo on the back or something. Like really, really go for it. But yeah, that's an accomplishment if you ask me.
Sure, absolutely.
All those winter layers and stuff. So
A life
all right.
goal, yeah.
I'll keep the audience tuned about that.
Please do. We're dying to hear about it.
Okay. Anything else left about this episode? We're getting to ratings for you.
I don't think so.
All right. So one thing I did get to revive on my sheet here is the ratings. I have listed the IMDb score for all 63 episodes of Kenan and Kel, and I also have a ranking of where they fall on IMDb's list. So, kind of rolling back the clock here for the past two episodes, the pilots and the Tainted of the Screw are both very highly rated, with an 8.1 and 8.4.
It's pretty good.
The whole scale is pretty much from like 8.5 to 6.2, so most of them are, in the above average out of 10 scale. But the pilot is ranked 6 out of 63 episodes, which is, I think that's crazy.
Yeah,
Because-
it doesn't get much better.
It's a very jumbled episode.
Yeah.
The Tainted of the Screw is ranked 3rd, as in top 3 of the whole series.
Wow. I do think that pilot is probably just because most people watch the pilot and are going to review the pilot. That's
Sure.
just has the most views. So I'm sure most of the people who reviewed it didn't watch the whole series.
There's a lot of factor in it, and I'd say like the I dropped the screw in a tuna, like that episode's very memorable.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Oh, it's classic.
The other ones high on the list are definitely on the memorable spectrum. But Doing Things Hemingway is ranked 16, so
Okay.
I high with a 7.9. What would you out of 10 bottles of orange soda? How many would you give to this episode?
I would give it a 7.
7? Yeah, that's I'm pretty much in line with that. I was between 6 and 7 for a lot of it. Going through it, it's a really funny episode.
I liked it a lot. I enjoyed it. I wasn't, cracking up like the Tainting of the Screw, but it was funny for sure.
I'm definitely giving it a 7. Better than the pilot in my book.
Yeah, I think so.
So okay, that's I guess that wraps up things here. Are you ready? What's the name of our next episode?
The next episode is called Mental Kel-epathy.
Yes, mental telepathy or what have you. It's about Kel, I think, having psychic powers, which is very, very early for that kind of nonsense, in my opinion.
Never too early.
All right.
Never too early.
Fair enough. So I hope you had a good time, and I guess I'll see you next week.
See you next week, everybody.
Are you going to close us out?
Aw, here it goes.
Thank you for listening. You can send us an email at KenanKelPodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at anchor.fm/KenanKelPodcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at KenanKelPodcast.